welcome to Justice Southbury's 270th consecutive rally for a more fair and kind community for all.
Yay!
Thank you so much for being here. Like I said, today we are small but powerful. I go to as many rallies as I can, but life sometimes interferes. I hate missing one, and I've missed 2 in a row, so I'm so glad to be back here on our corner. When we met a few months ago to imagine what the future of Justice Southbury might look like, knowing that we were facing an uphill struggle with no end in sight, to a person, no one was interested in quitting. We agreed that sharing the responsibilities for assembling and inspiring one another could be a shared opportunity. We could all step forward to lead when our stalwart leaders could not be available. And so here we are at such a moment. So what do we do when Rick or Jeremy are not present? We do it anyway. So this got me to thinking about something I had heard from Mother Teresa. So this was found on the wall of her children's home in Calcutta, India. It reads, "People are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway." And this is the part that I thought was particularly meaningful to what we're doing here on our corner. What you spend years creating, others could destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it will never be enough. Give your best anyway. So this is back to me. We often imagine that the greatest of our leaders see the way clearly. I find myself imagining that they have more courage, more intelligence, more drive than I. And then I read this biography of Mother Teresa. Did you know that Mother Teresa only had one vision in her life where she felt connected to Jesus and felt directed by Jesus himself to go into the slums of India and work for the poor? One vision. And when you think of the amount that she accomplished in her life with that one vision, it's a challenge, I think, to all of us to take the visions of our lives and make them real. She described this fact that she only had the one experience ever as a spiritual dryness in her life. And it made her sometimes question a connection that she thought she had experienced with Jesus. And then, like I said, still went on to accomplish great results. She didn't believe that she had to wait for God to make it happen. She knew that it was the human job to make the work of solving the human problems of hunger, poverty, and disease a human solution. So this is our task now, to make real what we know to be true and right, to fight against those in power who seek only to satisfy themselves, even at the expense of others, to take on momentous projects that will not see their end in our lifetimes, but to put our shoulders to the wheel and push, and keep pushing. I think the fatal flaw we're seeing in politics now is how many executive orders may be signed, eliminating DEI, fairness, kindness, love of our fellow man. They do not erase the knowledge that each of us has, that these are the ideals to aspire to, and the actions of those in power now are improper. We must push forward. We must do it anyway. And then, seemingly unrelated, was this quote that I read in a book that I'm reading currently, An Introduction to Quantum Mechanics.
Oh, wow.
And I was really tired the first time that I read this quote. And I was reading it aloud to my husband and saying, how does this quote make sense? And then when I started thinking about what I wanted to talk about today in this theme of do it anyway, I realized that they're really both saying the same thing. So from Mother Teresa to quantum physics, we have validation that we here on this corner arguing for fairness and justice for all is the right thing to do. So Einstein said, I'm going to read it twice but tell me if it makes instant sense to you all. Einstein said, The supreme task of any physicist is to arrive at those universal elementary laws from which the cosmos can be built up by pure deduction. Here's the second part. There is no logical path to these laws. Only intuition, resting on sympathetic understanding of experience, can reach them. So there are laws, but we can only reach them by intuition, which I think, again, validates what we're doing here today and every Sunday since George Floyd was murdered. So my translation of this quote allows me to recognize that there are laws that are true, immutable, loving our neighbors, standing for fairness for all. But the act of standing up and speaking up is the only way to prove them true in the eyes of all. So we must keep standing up and standing out. Now, last Sunday we had an incredible speaker on our Sunday speaker series. Was anybody there?
Yep.
John was there. You were there? So it was one of the best, I think, speaker series that we've had in the history of our speaker series, and we've had a number of them, although I do not have the exact one. So a man spoke to us from Equity Arc. He's the founder of Equity Arc, Stanford Thompson, and he spoke of his work in these very troubling times of working with a group of young musicians who were denied their opportunity to play with the President's own Marine Corps band as a consequence of the removal of DEI initiatives in the federal government. I also think he may be the first speaker we ever had who was on 60 Minutes. So they profiled this guy on 60 Minutes. And the end result of this work that he does is that the band played on. Volunteer retired Marine Corps people stepped forward since those under the auspices of the president could not. So retired Marine Corps players stepped forward and played with these young musicians, giving them the chance to perform in the concert that they had auditioned for and rightfully won. And that astounding generosity, because they initially did it all on their own dimes. They put their work aside, they chartered, they got plane tickets and hotel, and eventually Equity Arc, through the donations they received, were able to recompense the Marine Corps band that showed up. But initially, they did it of their own generosity because it was the right thing to do. And to me, this is the prime example of right shining through, even as a great wrong was being perpetrated. So the intuition of that moment, that cancellation of the original concert, was wrong through and through. And it took the imagination of the others to correct this spiteful action. So, again, we hear from the universe, do it anyway. These people, past and present, fire my heart, my mind, my spirits. And as Mother Teresa is quoted as saying, not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love.